On today's show, it's time for midterms. No, not giving you a test. We're handing out grades on the first half of the season for the Cleveland Cavaliers, plus the Cam Johnson situation. They've been linked to him. I'll tell you what I've heard and how I think this situation ends on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. I'm Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube right now, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, of course, sponsored by Prize Picks. Now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. We are officially at the halfway point for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've played 41 games this season. They've got 41 games left to play. So I think now is an excellent time to sort of look at the season, what's gone right so far, what maybe hasn't gone as well so far. Hint, there's not a lot in that second part. A lot has gone right for a team that is 35-6 in the first half of the season. But with that record, this is a team that is, and it might not feel like it because of what the last week has been, but this is a team that is on pace for 70 wins. It's one thing to be on pace for 70 wins when, the calendar flipped from October to November, or even from November to December, the way the Cavs got off to such a hot start. But the fact that this Cavaliers team is still on pace to win 70 games as we are, it's January 20th, as we are officially halfway through the season, I think that's a remarkable accomplishment. And I don't think it's something that the organization is necessarily going to celebrate or should celebrate, truthfully, because of what their goals are. I don't think regular season success is at the top of their list in terms of what they want to accomplish this year. And that's how it should be. But I think that this is something that if you're a Cavs fan, it's absolutely worth celebrating. This is the best 41 game start the organization has ever gotten off to. I don't think that they're going to win 70 games. They're probably outpacing themselves a little bit, but I think they're going to win 65 plus games. I think that the franchise record of 66 wins is something that is firmly possibly, it could be broken this year. I think they could get to 67, 68, maybe 69 games. I don't know how that's going to go, but I do think that this is a team that is going to not slow down in terms of just winning regular season games. I think the fact that they've been winning these games for the most part while building good habits is a really good sign for what is yet to come for this team. They have a 6.5 game lead in the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics, that's right, yes. 6.5 games separate the Cavs and the Celtics in the standings right now. And obviously that is tied as far as tiebreakers go. The Cavs have a 7-game lead in the loss column. So I don't want to sit here and say, oh, the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference is locked up halfway through the season. But considering how well the Cavs have played, I do think a lot would have to go wrong for them to not have the top record in the East. So we'll see what happens there. But I do think the thing that has ultimately stuck out to me the most about the first half of this season for the Cavaliers is how great they've been offensively, right? Like, this is a team that on the offensive end of the floor last year, in which the roster was not much different. Yes, there were some minor differences, I think it's fair to say. And of course, the Cavs have gotten better health from their star players this year. But I do think it's fair to say that the offense has changed quite a bit and been much, much better, despite the fact that the personnel hasn't changed. And I think, to me, that's been the most remarkable thing that we've seen. They went from a middle-of-the-pack offensive team last year to a team that has been pretty consistently throughout the season the number one offense in the entire NBA. I think Kenny Atkinson, what he and his coaching staff have been able to do so far this year on that side of the floor, I think has been remarkable. I think it has been one of the stories of the entire NBA this season. And I think that his staff deserve a lot of credit for that. But I think the players deserve a lot of credit for that too. Like when I look at the first half of the season, aside from just saying, wow, the Cavs are elite offensively, right? Like you're going to want to just dig a little bit deeper into that. How did we get here? And we got here because Evan Mobley, because Darius Garland, because Jarrett Allen, because the shooting from role players has been fantastic. All of those things have combined to create an elite offense. And I think it is an elite offense that is sustainable. I see no reason why this isn't who the Cavs are going to be for the foreseeable future here. And I think that when you start giving out credit, yeah, Kenny Atkinson deserves it, but how much do you split between him, his coaching staff, and what the players are actually doing on the floor? I'm sure he would want to give most of the credit to the players because that's how he is, and that's how most coaches are. But I look at this as the offense has evolved because Donovan Mitchell has taken a step to the side, Darius Garland has bounced back, and Evan Mobley has taken the leap. What we have seen, and I want to start with Evan as I talk about these guys, because what we have seen from Evan on the offensive end of the floor, I think is what a lot of people hoped Evan Mobley would become at some point in his career offensively. I don't know that he necessarily got there as fast as some people hoped, but I also think that we need to remember that development is not something that is linear in the NBA. You don't get a certain percent better every single year, no matter what, and different players develop at different rates. Some guys hit their ceiling earlier in their careers than others. Some guys need a little bit more time. And it's not like Evan Mobley, some 28-year-old guy that is just finally now tapping into his offensive potential. He's in his fourth year in the NBA. This isn't some, oh, he's been a late bloomer. That's ridiculous to think. I just think that because of where he was, because of the situation he came into in the NBA, where most guys that are picked third overall come into situations where winning isn't necessarily the priority, so they can kind of fail into their offensive development, if that makes sense. Like they can learn through failure on that end of the floor as they're young. Well, Evan Mobley came into a team that his rookie year won 44 games. His second year won 51 games. Last year went to the second round of the playoffs. And this year is a championship contender. So he couldn't develop through failure on offense. He had to play winning basketball the entire time. Now, he's done that. He's been a key component of a winning team his entire career. And I think that what we are seeing this year is from him offensively is a mixture of what he's done during the off seasons to improve. I think it's a boost in confidence, and I think it's a change to the offensive system. We've seen him take more 3-pointers this year. We've seen him still be not still, but last year he was a good shooter, just at a low volume. We've seen him become, I think, a better, more fluid shooter. His free throw numbers are up, which I think is a really good thing. Just overall, I think that Evan Mobley has had a more aggressive mindset this year on the offensive end of the floor. And that has been one of the biggest reasons why I think, one, he deserves to be an all-star, and two, this Cavs offense has been great. I think Darius Garland, you can say a lot of the same things I said about Evan Mobley for Darius Garland in terms of the aggressiveness. And I do think that Darius Garland isn't some drastically different player than he's been in the past. I think last year he had a lot of bad luck that really hampered him, really caused him to have a poor season by his standards. And this year, he's back to looking like a guy that I think should be in all-NBA conversations. Like I mentioned earlier last week, I don't think the all-star conversation exists for Darius Garland anymore. He should be an all-star. He's playing at, I think, a level higher than just an all-star level. I think he's somebody that merits being part of the all-NBA conversation with how good he has been. It's been a real treat to watch. He has been, I don't want to say the biggest surprise for the Cavs, because I think that if you've watched Darius Garland play basketball in games other than last year, you knew this was there. And there should not have been doubt that it could come back. Now, the question you could have had is, is Darius Garland going to be happy alongside Donovan Mitchell? How's that situation going to play out? And I think those are totally fair questions because of some reporting that was done this past summer. But I don't think that the first half of this season, I do not think that the partnership between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell could have gone any better than it has. And I think that you are seeing the results of that in the way the Cavs play offense, in the way, it's funny to me to scroll social media during Cavs games. And I follow a ton of people that cover other teams or are fans of other teams, but are avid watchers of basketball. And one of the things I just so frequently see when the Cavs are rolling is, man, the ball movement the Cavs have is absolutely phenomenal. And I think a big part of that is Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell playing together in perfect harmony. And that, to me, has been one of the stories of the first half of the season for the Cavaliers. I do think Donovan Mitchell has been really good. He's shooting the ball really well. Saturday night in Minnesota, go 4 of 15 from three, not necessarily withstanding. But I think that the leadership aspect of him, which I've talked about a ton lately, has been a really big bright spot for this team. And then I also do need to mention Jarrett Allen. I thought that if Evan Mobley was going to take the step up that he needed to take, things would look a lot different for Jarrett Allen. Instead, I think Jarrett has gone out and had one of the best, half seasons of his career. He's been really good. He's been really, really impressive. I think he deserves a lot of love too. Ultimately, I don't know if all four of those guys are going to be all-stars, but I see a world in which that does happen. So over the weekend, news about the Cavs and a potential trade target came out. I will tell you what I know and what I think about Cam Johnson and the Cavaliers next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball season heating up. Very hot right now. Halfway through the season, very, very hot, only getting warmer. And there's no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars than with Prize Picks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, Prize Picks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. So here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, do you think LeBron James, that guy won a title here in Cleveland, pretty good basketball player. He scored a lot of points in his career. You may have heard about him before. Do you think he's going to score 30 points? Maybe you think he's going to score under. You pick more or less there. Maybe you think that Trae Young, down in Atlanta, the league leader in assists, you think he's going to have a double-digit assist game. You pick more or less on 10 assists. Well, Prize Picks lets you make those predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. And with Prize Picks flex play option, if one of your picks doesn't hit, you can still double your money. Plus, when you do hit, you get your money fast, sometimes in as quick as 15 minutes. It's honestly the best way to keep the game exciting. And now is the perfect time to join, because if you download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA, that is LOCKEDON NBA, you get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. You play that first $5 lineup, you get $50 instantly. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And also, Locked On Cavs now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter, your one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That is LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Cavs newsletter. So it was reported by The Athletic over the weekend that Joe Varden reported this, that he has heard from 3 teams in the NBA that have said the Cavs have interest in Brooklyn Nets forward Cam Johnson. Now, I think Cam Johnson is the perfect fit in Cleveland, right? He's a 6'8" wing. He's a great shooter. He's a solid defender. He doesn't necessarily need the basketball in his hands a ton to thrive on the offensive end of the floor. He is somebody that I think Cavs fans have had their eye on all season long as a player that could immediately step right in and just seamlessly fit with what the Cavs do, both offensively and defensively. He's also, I think, a little bit of maybe Dean Wade insurance too, because Dean Wade does a lot of the same stuff Cam Johnson does. I think Cam is a better shooter on a higher volume, certainly, but they kind of profile the same in terms of what they can do on both ends of the floor, offensively, defensively. Cam just does it. I think he's a better shooter, and like I said, he shoots at a higher volume. So they're not, apples to apples players, but I think that there are some similarities that you can look at. I have heard from other teams in the NBA that the Cavs have interest in Cam Johnson, that he is a player that they are intrigued by, that they've been, wanting to try and make a trade happen there. That said, I don't know that it will. Let's talk through some trade scenarios here. There are a couple that I've put together that work out. The Cavs could trade Isaac Okoro, George Niang, Jaylen Tyson to the Nets for Cam Johnson. Now, draft capital needs to be involved here too. What the Cavs have available, and that trade I just threw out, that is what works financially, because that would not be the complete trade. If that trade happens, there's going to be draft assets that are attached to. So the Cavs, as part of that trade, also could trade their 2031 first round pick, which would have to be unprotected for them to be able to trade. Plus, I think it's probably going to take 2, maybe 3 second round picks to make happen. And the Cavs have several of those available. I think when you talk about second round picks, you kind of just look at the team that you're trading with and say, well, which ones do you want? You know, you can kind of have your pick of the litter unless you have one that you think is going to be top 5 in the second round. And then I think, okay, maybe it becomes a different conversation. But that is one of the packages that the Cavs could offer. With that package, I understand people hear that package and say, do that, right? Isaac Okoro has been a really good shooter for the Cavs, but he's injured. I think his minutes might start to go down a little bit when he is back to full health. I don't know where he fits in the rotation. I know that a lot of people are not necessarily high on George Niang. Jaylen Tyson, we don't know what he's going to turn into. I would caution you with the George Niang stuff. I would. And you're probably rolling your eyes right now. And I understand that because he has not necessarily been exactly what everyone thought he would be when the Cavs made that signing. But I do think George Niang matters a ton inside that locker room. And if you talk about if you care about how this Cavs team looks in terms of camaraderie, chemistry, all the things that I do think, part of which can lead them to be greater than the sum of their parts, George Niang is part of that. I think he's also having a solid season this year, right? We saw him against Minnesota on Saturday go for a double-double. He's shooting right around 38% from three. I think he's been a good player this year, and Kenny Atkinson said he's actually been one of their better defenders this season, which I don't know if I'm all the way there with George Niang, but I do think that he's got value to this team that not everybody sees, because that value is not always just things that are, I think part of that value is what happens behind closed doors. So I would caution you about being eager to trade away George Niang. I also don't think that there's a coincidence that things went south in Utah when George Niang was no longer on the Jazz, and things went south in Philly when George Niang was no longer on the Sixers. I'm not saying he's the entire reason for both of those situations, but I also think that if he would have still been in those situations, maybe things look a little bit differently for both of those franchises. Okay, so the other package I look at, I'm going to do the same pick package where it's the 2031 first round pick unprotected, 2 or 3 second round picks. Caris LeVert, Jaylen Tyson, Sam Merrill. That also works financially to make this trade happen. And you might say, oh, I like that trade too. That's one that works. Sam Merrill right now has not played very well this year, has not shot the basketball well. Caris LeVert is an expiring contract who has been really good for the Cavs, but he's going to be a free agent that I don't know the Cavs are going to be able to afford to keep. And again, Jaylen Tyson, who we don't know what he's going to be. I think that both of those packages are worth thinking about because Cam Johnson is a perfect fit for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But here's the bad part. I think that the Nets are going to get a better offer than anything the Cavs can give out. Because you look at the players, okay, does Isaac Okoro interest the Nets? Probably. Does George Niang interest the Nets? No. Does Jaylen Tyson? Yeah, I think he would. Does Caris LeVert? No, he's an expiring contract. Does Sam Merrill? Maybe, but also he's an expiring contract. So I'm not sure that the player package, aside from Jaylen Tyson, is something that is really interesting to Brooklyn. What I do think Brooklyn does really want is a combination of young players and first-round draft picks. Well, the Cavs have, I think, one young player with significant trade value, and that would be Jaylen Tyson. The Cavs also only have one first-round draft pick that they can trade away because they traded so many of their first-round draft picks to Utah for Donovan Mitchell. They would do that trade over again. They won that trade. There are no doubts about that. That was a great trade, but it is hamstringing what they can do right now in a potential trade for Cam Johnson. So it's not as if this were a vacuum and the Cavs were the only team allowed to trade for Cam Johnson, I think they probably would be able to trade for Cam Johnson. Like, I think they have enough in a vacuum to do it. But you look across the league, the Cavs are not the only team that's going to have interest in Cam Johnson. They're not the only team that's allowed to trade for Cam Johnson. I don't think they will trade for Cam Johnson because I think other teams are going to be able to offer more draft capital than the Cavs have. 2 other teams that are reported as interested in Cam Johnson. The Indiana Pacers, the Sacramento Kings. Well, the Indiana Pacers can trade more first-round picks for Cam Johnson. Will they? I don't know, but I know that they have the ability to. The Sacramento Kings, I believe, control all of their draft picks except for one swap that they have with San Antonio. So they can very easily trade 2 or maybe 3 first-round draft picks to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson. The Cavs can't do that. And I just think ultimately that is what the Nets are going to want. And then I haven't even mentioned the Oklahoma City Thunder, who they have as many as 5. It won't be 5. It'll probably be 4. But they have as many as 5 first-round draft picks in this spring's NBA draft. They have 33 draft picks available to them right now. They can look at Brooklyn and say, well, just pick 3 first-round picks and they're yours. That's what they can do. And if that happens, like I look at the situation as if Oklahoma City wants Cam Johnson's going to be in Oklahoma City. That's how I view this. He's a really good player. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Cavs. I think he's the type of player that the Cavs absolutely should have interest in. I just have my doubts about this getting done, not because the Cavs don't want him, not because Kobe Altman's not doing enough or anything crazy like that, but because ultimately the Cavs just don't have enough assets left in their draft capital, that in their war chest of draft picks. It's pretty bare right now. And because of that, I think Cam Johnson's going to end up elsewhere. Okay, it's time for Monday Trends. We're going to do last 15, last 10 full season offense, defense, net rating, talk about where the Cavs are right now on today's edition of Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. You don't have to wait around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team, which, if you're like me, your favorite team not playing football anymore because quarterback situation pretty bad. They're not playing the divisional round. Actually, I've only seen them playing the divisional round once in my life. So yeah, just business as usual here in Cleveland. So if you're betting on your favorite team, unlike me, or if you're just looking to add a little bit of excitement to the playoffs, like me, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com, and get started with $300 in bonus bets. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for the season. Cleveland Cavaliers still have the best offense in basketball, offensive rating of 121.9 according to NBA.com's stats. They've been elite offensively, basically no matter what criteria you want to put it against the teams they've played for any 2-week stretch. Like, the Cavs have not gone through an offensive lull at any point this year. Have they been more elite at certain points than other times? Sure. But there also hasn't been any period of time where they've just been an average offense throughout the season. They have consistently been one of the best offenses in basketball. And for almost every single time period you want to put it, they've been the best offense in basketball. Defensively, they're 10th in the NBA right now. Defensive rating of 111.4. Not great, not terrible. Definitely room for improvement. And their net rating for the full season, plus 9.6. They're second in that category, only trailing behind Oklahoma City, who is creating a bit of a gap, honestly. If you look at what their net rating is compared to the rest of the NBA, they have a net rating of plus 12.5. So they are almost 3 points per 100 possession better than the Cavs, who are second. The Cavs, the difference between OKC at 1 and the Cavs at 2 right now is about the same difference as the Cavs at 2 and Houston at 5. So that's how good OKC has been. And part of that, is, of course, is what happened on Thursday night. So for the last 15 games, the Cavs' offensive rating is actually better than it's been for the full season. Their offensive rating in the last 15 is 122.6. That is in every team's last 15 games. the best offensive rating in basketball. Now, here's where we start to get into an issue because their defensive rating in the last 15 games, 112.9. So plus that is 1.5 points per 100 possessions worse than their full season defensive rating. They are 14th in the NBA, so middle of the pack in the past 15 games. Their net rating still second, plus 9.7 because of how good they've been offensively. That really is what has kept them afloat. And then you look at the last 10 games for the Cavs, their offensive rating, 119.1. They're third in the NBA in the last 10 games. Again, that is elite. That is great offense. It's a little bit below what their season average is, but it's still great offense. So it's hard for me to say they're in a lull offensively when no, they've still been really good. They just haven't had their best couple of weeks or so. Here's the issue. The defensive rating in the last 10 games for the Cavs, 114.8. So they are more than 3 points per 100 possession worse than their season average during their last 10 games. That ranks 18th in the NBA. What we saw in November was very different defensively than what we saw from the Cavs in December. They went from 20th in November to 3rd in December. January has, for the Cavs, been unfortunately much closer to what they were in November than what they were in December. For the last 10 games, the Cavs net rating is plus 4.3, which is 9th in the NBA. They have been an elite offense lately, but they've been a bad defense lately. And that has led them to be, instead of being over the last 10 games, an elite team, they've been an above average team. They've been a good team. They haven't been, maybe really good is fair. I don't think they've been great. They have not been elite. They've not been bad. It's just they have not played, in my opinion, they've not played to a championship standard in their last 10 games. I don't think it's that big of a deal because it's the middle of January as we talk about this, and they have a long time to round into championship form. And I don't think it's fair to expect this team to play its best basketball for 82 games when they plan on playing at least 98 games this year. That is their plan. So with that, I do think that the defense is, I don't know if I'm ready to say concerning, but it is at least at the level where you raise an eyebrow to. Like, I don't know that I love that. If you're thinking about the Cavs as a championship contender, that is the thing that I think might give you some pause, is that defensively, they maybe haven't played quite at that championship level consistently enough. You have no concerns offensively. You should not. But the defensive side of the floor, that's where it's like, I'd like to see them be a little bit better there. But the whip around is back. The Cavs play today, this afternoon. Very strange start time. 3:30 on Martin Luther King Day against the Phoenix Suns. Then they've got 2 games with Houston this week and a game against Philly mixed in between those 2 games. So we'll be talking about all of those games on an episode. The whip around is going to come out a little bit earlier just because the Cavs play the Suns at 3:30 on Monday. So it's going to come out a little bit earlier in the morning. So these 2 episodes are going to be a little close together, but I hope you enjoy that. Thank you for making this your first listen today. Last night was my first night on Locked On NBA Game Night National Show. So for your second listen, go make Locked On NBA Game Night your second listen. Talked about all the games. Super fun. Really glad I got to do that. That's going to be a staple for me moving forward. Going to be doing that on Sunday night. So if you're looking for more NBA talk, that is certainly the place to go. Also, I want to give a shout out to the guy I met at the golf simulator on Saturday afternoon. I did not catch your name, but you said you were a big fan of Locked On Cavs. I just want to say I appreciate you and thank you for saying hi, but sorry, did not catch your name. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today. And if you are watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. The whip around will be coming soon, and I'll be back after Phoenix.